Love is not merely a feeling, it is a voluntary exposure to devastation. When a woman loves you, truly loves you, she opens herself to a depth of risk most men will never fully comprehend. She is not handing you affection. She is placing the core of her psychological being into your hands, hoping you will not drop it. You think love is comfort. It is not. It is terror wrapped in beauty. It is stepping into chaos with no promise of order. It is standing naked spiritually and emotionally, hoping you are not a mirror that reflects only her flaws. Her withdrawal is not absence. It is the echo of how deeply she feels. The more she loves, the more the stakes rise. And when the stakes rise, so too does the potential for annihilation. Love makes her visible, and visibility means danger. She was taught by experience, perhaps not directly, but implicitly, that being seen too clearly invites judgment, betrayal, or abandonment. To love you is to gamble with her most protected parts. And when you gamble with something sacred, you do not do it casually. So when she pulls away, it's not because she loves you less, it's because she loves you more than she can presently bear. Her psyche begins to whisper, you are too close to something that can destroy you. And she listens, not because she wants to, but because that voice has been right before. Vulnerability for a woman is not poetic, it is ancestral. For thousands of years, vulnerability could mean dependence, silence, loss of control, or worse. Her instincts carry that. Her biology remembers. And love, in its deepest form, reactivates it. To love is to be known. And to be known is to be vulnerable to rejection. Not rejection of the surface self, the one with the curated smile and charming words, but of the deeper self, the one she keeps even from herself sometimes. So when she senses that you are seeing her too clearly, too honestly, she recoils. Not because you are wrong, but because you might be right. And if you are right, she is no longer invisible. And invisibility has always been her armor. You must understand that emotional retreat is not manipulation, it is survival. When she pulls away, she is trying to catch her breath inside a room suddenly lacking air. She is assessing the risk of continuing to show up for you, and that risk is monumental. Because to continue loving you means allowing the walls to come down completely, and those walls took years to build. They were not made of ego, they were made of experience. She does not run from you, she runs from what loving you too much might mean. She runs from the possibility of being left after she has revealed her soul. She runs from the fear that you will see the parts she cannot yet love in herself and recoil. She is not retreating to punish you, she is retreating to protect herself from what feels like the edge of psychological collapse. The more you matter, the more terrifying you become. You must not interpret her withdrawal as weakness. It is strength, honed over time. A strength that says, I must check if I am still whole before I give more of myself away. And if you are wise, you will not chase her with desperation. You will hold still. You will remain rooted like the oak in a storm. You will show her, not with words, but with presence, that you are not the wind that blows her down, but the ground she can return to. Love asks of her what nothing else does, the surrender of her autonomy, the exposure of her fears, the relinquishing of control over outcomes. That is not small, that is not light, that is not easy. She does not pull away because her love has diminished. She pulls away because it is growing too fast, faster than her nervous system can regulate, faster than her past can reconcile with, faster than her soul can stabilize. Every woman who loves carries ghosts. Ghosts of past betrayals, ghosts of being dismissed when she spoke her truth, ghosts of being told her emotions were too much. And those ghosts awaken when love becomes real. And when they awaken, she must face them. And sometimes that means facing them alone. Not because she doesn't trust you, but because she doesn't want to burden you with the war inside her. When she pulls away, you are witnessing the collision between love and fear, The love she feels for you is raw. It is not romantic comedy love. It is not filtered Instagram love. It is the love that shakes the foundations of her being. The love that says, if I fall all the way. And falling, to someone who has been hurt before, feels like dying. So she resists, not the feeling, but the consequences of that feeling. Understand that in her world, love has always had consequences. Love has been conditional. Love has come with costs. Love has demanded that she shrink, comply, or disappear. So when you offer her genuine, stable love, it confuses her nervous system. It feels unfamiliar. And unfamiliar does not always mean safe. Even goodness, when unrecognizable, can feel threatening. Her withdrawal is a recalibration. She is checking whether she can survive the love she feels for you, whether she can let you in without losing herself, whether she can soften without being shattered, whether she can trust you not just with her body or her time, but with her hope. And hope, for someone who has tasted despair, is the most dangerous gift of all. So many men see withdrawal as rejection, but withdrawal is often a silent cry for safety, for patience, for stability, for time to breathe. It is not an exit, it is a pause. And that pause is sacred. It is in that space that she determines whether you are truly a safe place to land or just another beautiful storm. If you rush her, she will not stay. If you punish her for retreating, she will conclude that love equals pressure. And pressure is not love. Pressure is fear in disguise. When she pulls away, remember, she is not asking you to fix her. She is asking you not to fracture in her absence. She is watching to see if your masculinity is rooted in ego or in depth, whether you need her for your completeness or can remain whole enough to wait. She wants to love, not rescue. She wants to be held, not healed. She wants to come back to a man who does not collapse when she needs space to breathe. And if you can be that man, not perform it, but embody it, you will find that her love returns deeper, richer, fiercer. Because now she knows you are not afraid of her intensity. She knows you will not punish her emotional honesty. She knows you are not a container that leaks when filled too quickly. She knows you do not crumble when faced with truth. She knows you are a place where her vulnerability is not weaponized but honored. And when a woman knows that, truly knows it, she no longer pulls away out of fear. She leans in out of choice. We are creatures of pattern, and those patterns are carved into our psyche long before we ever fall in love. When she pulls away, you are not just seeing a woman react, you are witnessing the history of her attachment. You are looking at the residue of her childhood, the echoes of how safety and intimacy were first introduced to her nervous system. You think she's pulling away from you, but she's really pulling away from a threat her mind learned to anticipate decades before you ever touched her hand. Attachment is not romance, it is a survival map. It tells her what closeness means, how it feels, and whether it can be trusted. If she learned that intimacy brought pain, she will crave it with one hand and shield herself with the other. This is not contradiction, it's conditioning. You cannot expect her to respond to your love like someone who is never burned by it. You are entering a system already wired for caution, and if you do not understand the system, you will misread the signals. Avoidant attachment doesn't mean coldness, it means protection. It is not that she cannot feel, it is that feeling too much too fast threatens to destabilize her internal equilibrium. She was taught, often silently, that needing others makes her weak, so when she needs you most, she may disappear. Not because she wants distance, but because closeness feels like suffocation. She has trained herself to breathe alone, even while drowning. And if her attachment is anxious, the paradox deepens. Now she clings, then flees. Now she demands presence, then retreats. Her love becomes a battlefield of anticipation and fear. She is not testing you. She is trapped in a loop where affection means anxiety and space means rejection. She doesn't know how to ask for reassurance without shame. She doesn't know how to trust your consistency when inconsistency has been her teacher. Do you understand how deep this goes? Attachment theory is not modern fluff. It's evolutionary psychology. It's the primal blueprint of human survival. Infants cry because without connection they die. That instinct never leaves us. It only matures into more complex behaviors. When she pulls away, her body is scanning for danger. Her mind is searching for patterns. Will this man vanish like the others? Will he punish me for needing too much? Will he stay long enough to see who I really am? You think love is enough, but love without awareness is dangerous, because you will offer connection and she will interpret it as control. You will offer safety and she will see it as entrapment. You will hold her and she will wonder when you'll let go. This is not because you are wrong, it's because her attachment style rewrites your actions through a distorted lens. And until you understand the lens, you cannot communicate truth. Most men do not study attachment, they study attraction. They memorize tactics, they practice charisma, but they forget that what builds or breaks a relationship is not seduction, it's security. It is whether she feels seen, not watched, heard, not fixed, held, not handled. And attachment wounds are invisible to the eye. They show up in tone, in timing, in tension. They show up when your text is 5 minutes late and her nervous system spirals into fight or flight. Not because she is irrational, but because her body still remembers abandonment as a lived threat. You cannot change her attachment style with logic. The brainstem does not speak the language of reason. It responds to repetition, presence, emotional consistency. If you want her to stop pulling away, you do not chase. You regulate. You stabilize. You build a foundation so unmoved by her storm that she begins to doubt the need for defense. You do not fix her past. You become proof that the future can be different. Understand that her avoidance is not about independence. It is about fear of engulfment. If she believes closeness will cost her identity, she will resist even what she craves. She is not choosing detachment, she is protecting her inner core. And if you make her feel like loving you requires losing herself, she will run, not because she doesn't care, but because survival trumps connection every time. Some women learned that being too close meant being controlled. Others learned that being too distant meant being forgotten. Both of these fears live in the body. They surface when intimacy begins to feel real, when the relationship moves past chemistry into commitment, when the masks fall and the mirror of emotional reality appears. And in that mirror, she does not only see you, she sees every moment she ever felt unloved, and she pulls away to escape the flood. But if you are conscious, you will not take it personally. You will understand that she is not abandoning you, she is negotiating with the ghost of abandonment. She is standing in the center of a battlefield you cannot see, fighting for permission to trust. She is learning to sit with discomfort instead of fleeing. And that is not weakness, that is evolution. That is the slow, sacred work of healing. Your job is not to be her therapist. Your job is to be a container strong enough to hold the process without collapsing. You must become fluent in emotional presence. You must respond to fear with steadiness, not frustration. Because how you react to her pulling away is what teaches her whether you are safe. Every sigh, every silence, every withdrawal is data her body collects. She is studying you with the radar of someone who has had to survive uncertainty. And if she sees inconsistency, she will retreat to what she knows. Many men get angry when a woman pulls back. They feel punished. They feel insulted. But the wise man sees it differently. He sees it as an invitation, a test, not of his worth, but of his depth. Can he stay grounded in the face of confusion? Can he remain open in the presence of withdrawal? Can he love without needing to possess? The men who can do this are rare and unforgettable. You cannot love her only when she is open. You must also love her when she is guarded, when she is cold, when she is distant, because those are the moments when her attachment wounds are speaking the loudest. And how you treat her in those moments will echo in her nervous system long after words are forgotten. You are not just building trust, you are rewriting memory. Her pulling away is not a failure, it is a moment of opportunity. It is the place where love either deepens or dissolves. If you meet her retreat with ego, she will close. If you meet it with curiosity, she may slowly return. And when she does, she will not forget how you responded. She will remember whether you made her feel like a burden or a human being. And in that memory, your relationship will either root or rot. If you want to love a woman who pulls away, learn her psychology. Understand the architecture of attachment. Know the signs of trauma response. Read the language of silence. Study your own reactions as closely as hers. Because your triggers will collide, and unless one of you becomes conscious, both of you will become casualties of unconscious fear. Love is not a rescue mission, but it is a mirror. And if you can look into that mirror and hold still while she searches for safety, you will become the man she never knew she could trust. Not because you chased her, but because you waited without wavering. Because you knew that real love honors the space between. Because you understood that pulling away is not rejection. It is a reflection of what still needs healing. And healing begins with understanding. There is a profound terror that comes with the merging of two identities. A silent panic beneath the surface of intimacy that most men never notice until it's too late. When a woman begins to truly love you, she does not just offer companionship, she begins to feel the gravity of emotional convergence pulling on the edges of her individuality. The closer she gets, the more she feels herself dissolving into the relationship. And that is not romantic, that is existentially threatening. You believe closeness is comfort, but to her, closeness is a question. Will I still recognize myself when I stand next to you? If she has built her life around protecting her autonomy, the surrender required for love feels like a violation of self. She does not fear love because she doubts you. She fears love because she knows how easily women are taught to abandon themselves when the stakes become emotional. And the deeper the intimacy, the higher the cost of that abandonment. This is not a modern problem, it is an ancient one. Throughout history, women have been conditioned to shrink in the presence of male identity, to bend, to compromise, to mold themselves into something more pleasing, more palatable, more useful. And even if you are not that kind of man, she carries generations of memory that whisper, stay alert, stay separate, stay safe. Her identity is not something she will give up lightly. Not even for love. When she pulls away, it is often because she feels her sense of self beginning to erode beneath the weight of emotional fusion. Love is supposed to feel like expansion, but too often it begins to feel like disappearance. She begins to speak less, edit more, second-guess her instincts, overcorrect her tone. She stops choosing for herself and starts deferring to the invisible expectations of being the right woman. That is the beginning of self-erasure, and she feels it happening before you do. She did not build her independence out of convenience. She built it out of necessity. It is her fortress, her definition, her control. So when love arrives, it does not just open the gates, it threatens the very walls that kept her safe. The merging of lives sounds poetic until you realize it means negotiating every belief, every preference, every routine, and every dream. And if those negotiations are not done consciously, they become silent surrenders. She pulls away not because she does not love you, but because she senses the boundary between herself and the relationship blurring too quickly. Women are not afraid of connection, they are afraid of erasure. She wants to love without disappearing. She wants to choose closeness without sacrificing authenticity. But if you are not careful, the relationship becomes a machine that consumes her clarity and replaces it with compromise. Suddenly she is doing what pleases you before asking if it pleases her. Suddenly she is measuring her worth by your attention rather than her alignment. Suddenly she cannot remember where she ends and you begin. That is the moment she steps back. That is the moment the distance appears. Not out of coldness, but out of necessity. She needs space not to detach, but to remember who she is outside of the we. to feel the pulse of her own choices again, to realign her life with her own values rather than the gravitational pull of emotional dependency. And the man who cannot tolerate that space will never witness the full strength of a woman rooted in her own identity. Love without boundaries becomes bondage. And the tragedy is that most men interpret her need for space as rejection, when it is in fact the most honest attempt to preserve the very relationship she values. She cannot give you her whole self if she is losing herself in the process. She cannot offer you her loyalty if she feels imprisoned by proximity. You must understand that her pulling away is not distance from you. It is a return to herself. It is the breath between beats, the silence, that gives meaning to the music. There is a sacred tension in intimacy, the need to belong and the need to be free. When either one dominates, the relationship begins to rot. If she feels engulfed, she will retreat into resentment. If she feels ignored, she will decay in loneliness. You must learn to dance at the edge of her independence, not as a threat, but as a sign of trust. Her autonomy is not a rebellion against love. It is a foundation for it. She was not made to be absorbed. She was made to be witnessed. She was not designed to become your reflection. She was designed to remain whole in the presence of your wholeness. And the most dangerous thing you can do is mistake conformity for devotion. When a woman becomes too agreeable, too quiet, too compliant, you are not winning her, you are losing her. You are watching the fire go out in her eyes while she learns to smile through her silence. Do not be fooled by her presence if her spirit is vanishing. Do not mistake consistency for connection if her soul is negotiating a quiet retreat. She will pull away, not because she is done, but because she is beginning to reclaim what intimacy quietly demanded she put down, beginning to ask questions she silenced for your comfort, beginning to remember that her life is not a chapter in your story, it is its own novel with its own arc and its own ending. True intimacy is not ownership, it is observation. It is not shaping her into what fits your mold, it is standing beside her as she becomes more of who she already is. And if you are threatened by her growth, you were never truly in love with her, only with the version of her that made you feel more secure. But she does not exist to soothe your insecurities. She exists to walk her path, with or without your permission. When she pulls away, it is the cost of unspoken agreements finally coming due. Agreements she never signed but felt pressured to obey. Agreements that told her to be less assertive, less ambitious, less intense. Agreements that whispered, don't outshine him, don't challenge him, don't want too much. And when those internal contracts begin to suffocate her, she does not ask for permission to leave. She simply moves, quietly, decisively, not because she wants to abandon you, but because she must return to herself or lose everything. The modern woman is not afraid of solitude. She is afraid of self-sacrifice disguised as romance. She is not fleeing connection, she is fleeing dependency. She wants to choose you freely, not cling to you desperately. And she will not stay in a relationship that demands she betray her instincts just to keep the peace. If love requires her silence, she will choose her freedom, not out of rebellion, but out of self-respect. And if you are the man who can understand this, truly understand it, you will not chase her when she steps back. You will not punish her for needing air. You will not collapse into insecurity. You will hold your ground and wait, because you trust the woman who returns after reclaiming herself. She is not coming back out of obligation. She is coming back out of truth. And that kind of love is unshakable. When a woman loves you, she is not only opening her heart, she is unlocking the most fragile vault of her psychological landscape. And that vault is not only filled with affection, it is filled with shadows. You think love is the arrival of light, but for her, love can also be the opening of wounds she has kept hidden even from herself. The deeper her feelings grow, the more violently her inner conflicts begin to surface. You believe she is meant to be happier with you, and yet she becomes more distant, more conflicted, more afraid. And it baffles you because no one ever told you that love could awaken the parts of her she spent her whole life trying to silence. Her trauma does not vanish when she loves. It speaks louder. Her insecurities don't dissolve. They reorganize themselves in the shape of the new relationship. She wants to move forward, but her body remembers every time she gave her trust and paid for it in betrayal. You are not the enemy, but love makes you the mirror in which she must now see every unhealed scar. You become the reflection of her unprocessed grief, her dormant fears, her untold stories. And if you are not conscious of that weight, you will misinterpret her withdrawal as ungratefulness instead of what it truly is, survival. Love touches what's raw. It reaches into her nervous system and touches the wire that says connection equals risk. The same force that makes her lean into you is the force that makes her question whether she is safe. She may feel overwhelmed by tenderness, not because it's unwelcome, but because it exposes how long she has lived without it. She wants to let go, but part of her is still braced for impact. She wants to trust your arms, but her instincts are on alert for when those arms will vanish. She's fighting for presence while haunted by absence. You think love is supposed to be simple, but for her it never was. Her earliest impressions of intimacy may have been unreliable, conditional, chaotic. She learned early that affection could be taken, love could turn cold, and closeness could lead to collapse. So when you offer your heart, she doesn't only feel joy, she feels alarm, because her body cannot distinguish between love that heals and love that harms, unless it has time to and when that rewiring begins, she pulls away, not because she doesn't want you, but because her nervous system isn't sure how to keep her safe around you yet. She may wrestle with guilt for needing reassurance. She may battle shame for how deeply she feels. She may smile when she's breaking, because she has learned that vulnerability was once punished, and now, in your presence, all of that pain stirs like dust in a room she hasn't entered in years. That's the truth no fairy tale tells you. Sometimes, love does not feel like rescue. Sometimes, it feels like confrontation with everything she's been running from. Her love does not only bring her comfort, it demands her to confront. Every moment of real connection forces her to decide, does she show her full self or the edited version she used to survive? That decision, made 1,000 times in small ways, can exhaust her to the point of emotional withdrawal. She wants to share herself, but not if she's going to be misunderstood. She wants to be known, but only if she feels safe in that knowing. You think she's being distant when she's actually doing the hardest thing, negotiating between who she is and who she's afraid to be. Her withdrawal is not always logical, it's often biological. Her brain has learned to associate love with loss, affection with instability, and connection with performance. So when you are steady, when you are kind, when you are consistent, it confuses her. Because kindness is unfamiliar, because safety feels suspicious, because stability feels like a trick. And that confusion doesn't mean she doesn't love you, it means her mind is trying to protect her from repeating a history she never chose. She may find herself irritated by your availability, not because she resents it, but because it reminds her of how deeply she craved it before and how painful it was to go without it. She may question your motives, not because you've lied, but because lies used to wear the face of love. She may test your patience, not because she enjoys conflict, but because she needs to know whether your presence is conditional or enduring. Every moment of resistance is a shield built by experience, and she's waiting to see whether you will break it with force or melt it with consistency. When she loves you, she is not just offering sweetness, she is handing you her complexity. She is giving you the chaos, the contradiction, the parts of herself she still hasn't named. She's letting you into a war zone disguised as a quiet life. And if you expect ease, you will mistake her pain for drama. But if you expect depth, you will see that her pulling away is not weakness, it is a sacred pause. A necessary recalibration. A return to center after being cracked open by emotional intensity. You have to understand that love is not just about what you give, it's about what you trigger. You may think you're giving her what she's always wanted, and yet you are also activating what she was never ready to face. And that activation is not your fault. but it is now your responsibility to hold space for it. Not to fix it, not to shrink it, but to stand with it without needing it to change before you can stay. Her pulling away is not the end of the relationship. It is a threshold. It is a place where real love begins, not the love built on fantasies or projections, but the kind that stays through the unraveling, that listens even when the words are messy, that holds even when the embrace feels stiff, that waits not because it is weak, but because it is wise enough to know that true connection takes time. Her inner conflict is not your enemy. It is the reason she is real. It is the proof that she is not giving you a performance. She is giving you her truth. And that truth may come in pieces, it may come in silence, it may come in retreat, but it is honest. And honesty, no matter how painful, is the only path to real intimacy. If you can hold her contradictions without demanding resolution, you will earn her trust. If you can accept her complexity without needing it to fit your image of love, you will open a space for her to become whole. If you can see her pulling away, not as rejection, but as revelation, you will learn to love, not just the woman. And that is where love stops being a feeling and becomes a form of service. Not a duty, not a sacrifice, but a sacred responsibility. The responsibility to witness, not possess, to support, not solve, to stay, not to fix, to be the one place in her life where she does not need to hide, edit, or perform. Because when love triggers her inner conflict and she still chooses to return, that is not weakness, that is power.